I'm joined now by Dr. Juliet Ehimuan, Board Director, Investor, Tech Industry Leader, and former Director for Google West Africa, to help us review some of our top stories in more detail. Good morning, Dr. Juliet. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Good morning. So great to be talking about tech with you again. It's been an interesting year so far because,
Indeed.
of course, DeepSeek has been in the headlines, but the story gets more intriguing because we're talking about South Korean suspending or banning the app. And then we're also talking about the issues around its rivalry with the US.
Yes.
So tell us what the key dynamics with DeepSeek.
Yes, so I think certainly DeepSeek took the industry by surprise. When you consider the fact that last year we had a lot of instances of the US restricting the export and the sales of AI semiconductor chips to China. You know, there's been this rivalry, and the announcement of DeepSeek shows that, you know, the industry may have underestimated what's going on in spite of all the potential restrictions. And I think this is a game changer in the industry. It's early to be able to determine the extent of the impact and how fast, but I think for sure this represents a massive shift and an inflection point, just the way we had PCs disrupt the mainframe industry, right? Decades ago.
Feels like centuries ago.
I know, exactly. Exactly. But if we just look at OpenAI, the ChatGPT, those types of models, and DeepSeek, and just look at what's different, what's similar and what's different. So first of all, they're all generative, so they produce text. They're pre-trained and they're transformers, so they're able to use self-recognition to be more efficient in how they process content. So, and that's what GPT is, generative pre-trained transformer. But whilst traditionally these models have been very expensive to produce, OpenAI is reported to have spent over $100 million to build ChatGPT, and also there's reliance on a lot of expensive data centers, thousands of $40,000 GPUs. That's the central processor. DeepSeek was built for, we're told, about $5 million.
It's crazy.
And requiring less expensive GPUs, basically what you use for gaming, right? So that has really blown the roof on in some ways, the mysticism around generative AI. The fact that previously the perception was that it was large tech, tech giants with large data centers, and you needed billions of dollars to be able to do this. Now it's very clear that building these systems has become less expensive. It's a lot more accessible. And I think it's worth unpacking some of the things around DeepSeek that have made this possible. Because when you talk about $100,000 to $100 million.
Although we may get to $100,000 one day, given how
there
cheap
you go.
It is
Absolutely.
now.
I wouldn't take it off the table.
Yeah.
But when you're looking at 95% decrease in cost, that's quite significant, right? So there are a few things they do. One, they rethought the entire model from the ground up, right? And they applied what we call an expert architecture as opposed to a dense architecture, which is what is used by OpenAI. And what that is if you imagine yourself going to the library, in the library you have all kinds of resources. You have maybe psychology books, you have business, management, engineering. Each time you open the library, it all gets activated at once, right? That's a dense architecture. Every neuron is connected to every other neuron in every other layer. But that's a great example in terms of how to describe it. But in an expert architecture, if I'm interested in psychology, that's the bit that gets activated.
For you, because of your interest.
Because of my interest, right? That's one way to describe it. Again, it's almost like, talking to someone who's got, who's a doctor, an engineer, a psychologist all at once. Versus,
so you're saying DeepSeek is more the expert architecture?
Yes, the expert architecture.
So it's almost like a bespoke, tailored approach.
Well, it does have all the elements, but in terms of how it's activated and used, right? And there are some other dynamics that inform this. So the way it treats numbers, traditional models use 32 decimal places, right, to represent numbers. But DeepSeek thought, why don't we use 8? It would still be accurate enough. Now, if you're using 8 decimal places versus 32, you've reduced your data requirements and your data storage by 75%. Right? Those are some of the intricacies bringing down the cost.
On this data stuff, interestingly, I read the World Economic Forum was talking about the energy consumption of data centers that are powering artificial intelligence.
Exactly.
So essentially, based on the footprint of DeepSeek and how it's more disruptive, more efficient, it's less energy consumptive.
Yes, absolutely,
right?
absolutely.
And then I'm even hearing that our water resources are at risk because of artificial intelligence data centers. Apparently, they have to use water as well.
It's like having a whole generating plants to power your factory, right? There's a lot of energy consumption as well. And another thing in terms of how DeepSeek has been able to achieve this, the way it passes the way it processes words, almost like a primary one student. Well, traditional models would process words almost like a primary one student, where you go, the boy sat on a mat. You're parsing each word, right? But in terms of DeepSeek, they've been able to apply what we call a multiple token process, where they can parse phrases at once, making it 2 times faster.
Interesting.
So there's a lot of clever engineering that has gone into this to make it, to be able to generate these amazing results that we're getting. It's also open source.
Okay.
Which makes it a lot more favorable to developers, right? There's no magic in terms of like secrecy, etc.
They've essentially demystified.
It's all out there. Yes, exactly. It's all out there.
So can I ask you, have you used DeepSeek?
I haven't.
Okay, because I was going to ask you what your user experience is compared to Open AI. But
I've gotten feedback.
And what's the feedback?
Very similar.
Very similar.
Very similar,
okay.
right?
Not
so,
significantly
which is why,
better?
I think the huge noise right now is what it took to get to this same level of expertise.
In any case, with disruption in industries, it's usually a cost play. If you can match what a competitor is doing and you do it at much cheaper cost, that's disruption. So your product doesn't even have to be significantly better than the competitor.
Exactly. Yeah. But the reality as well is that, of course, it's going to get better.
Of course,
you know? And they've been able to also do this using less expensive GPUs, processors, the same processors you use for gaming. You know, and not just OpenAI, even companies like NVIDIA will probably be on, you know, they really need to be on their toes, because NVIDIA is currently among the top 3 most valued companies in the world.
Of course.
And that was based on the sale of expensive AI semiconductor chips, these GPUs. Now, if you can achieve similar results with other GPUs out there that are used for gaming,
that might impact their valuation. This is all very interesting. There's 2 other angles I want to explore. South Korea has banned new downloads of DeepSeek, citing data privacy concerns. Can you tell us about that angle?
Yes. Actually, it's not just South Korea. I think to date, about 6 countries have done that. You have Italy, Taiwan, India, the US, and Australia.
And these are not political moves.
Well,
these are genuine concerns about data privacy.
Yes. The concerns are data privacy and safety. And in some cases, it's restrictions, so not banned for the entire country. In some cases, it's restrictions around where you have sensitive data. So like public institutions, government agencies, defense agencies, scientific research institutions. So restricting the use in those areas. And if you think about it, these systems learn. As you use them, they learn, especially the free models, right? For the paid models, you're able to specify that you don't want your data to be used in training, right? But for the free models, as I'm asking questions and refining, the system is learning, which means the next user can benefit from all the work that I have done, right? And, you can make inquiries, into like deep inquiries around, particular, companies or areas of interest, right? What they're searching and get some insights into the research. So I think there's that concern around, data privacy and security, and we may yet see more. And I would also expect that there'll be some response as well from DeepSeek in terms of really helping to unpack, how the data is treated and addressing those data concerns.
Very interesting, fascinating. Gosh,
yes, I think the game is on for sure.
The game is seriously on. But with this game that's on, a lot of us are benefiting because technology is really assisting us to make our day-to-day life, personal and work lives, a lot easier. So,
exactly.
I used gamma.app the other day to put my presentation slides in, in less than an hour, I was done. So it's incredible what artificial intelligence is doing. Musk is trying to raise money at $44 billion valuation. Similar valuation to what it, when it bought Twitter.
Yes.
What does that tell us about this app and how much it has lost some credibility? Some people think it has with some of its suppliers, its vendors, its customers.
Yes, I think $44 billion valuation is ambitious.
Okay.
Like you rightly said, it was purchased in 2022 for that amount, but it lost value. A lot of advertisers left the platform because they felt it was becoming increasingly partisan. That was the perception. And today, it's worth $9.5 billion.
So essentially what you're saying is, even though the valuation is the same, over the time since he purchased it, the value so for $4 billion is now looking overvalued. Yeah,
well, right now the value is $9.5 billion.
Yeah, it's
right?
To sell,
so going to market
it's
ambitious, right? And a lot of advertisers left, and you've had users migrate to new competing platforms, like Threads and Blue Sky. So with Threads, for example, we've seen in the last year, actually in less than a year, we saw about 57% increase in monthly active users. For X, in a longer period of time, so in the past year, the increase has been about 8%. So you can see a huge difference. And in terms of absolute numbers, we're talking about 100 million new users, monthly users for Threads, versus 50 million for X. And also Blue Sky, interestingly, one of the creators of Blue Sky was among the creators of X, Twitter back then. So there's real competition. But there's another reality to factor into all this. Elon Musk's other companies have soared in value in the last few months in the wake of his involvement in President Trump's administration. So, for example, Tesla increased in value by about 67%. And as at December last year, SpaceX had increased to a valuation of $350 billion.
So Dr. Juliet, what is the conclusion here? Are you joining the dots between his political role and the value of his companies? Yeah.
Well, so when you look at the timing, right? So this SpaceX valuation was in 6 months, from June to December. It rose by 67%. So, however, Tesla sales have gone down this year. So I'm just saying that there are other realities at play, and this valuation, even though it's ambitious, it may go through or it may yet be taken off, right? So we have to watch this space.
Very interesting time. So fascinating following all of this. Incredible as well as to how big tech has made increasing forays into the political space in the US, either out of necessity or, whatever it is. But thank you so much. We've run out of time. We spent so much time talking about OpenAI and DeepSeek, and now Elon Musk's $44 billion, which Dr. Juliet says is pretty ambitious. Let's see what happens with that. Thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.